Hello everyone, in this video we'll see infinitivos de verbos regulares. We'll see the conjugation of the three models that regular verbs follow in Spanish. I'll be teaching you three verbs that are very useful, especially when starting to learn a language. And you know that in Spanish we have three endings for infinitives, three typical endings, no more than that. Ar, ir. Let's see one with the first example, with the first ending. Let's make, and then I'm going to conjugate them and make some examples with typical questions too. Always in the present tense for now. Present tense. Let's see the verb trabajar. Let's see if you guessed the meaning. Yo trabajo, and I'm going to write in another color the ending, because you know that conjugation in Spanish is complex, and for each pronoun we have a different ending. Trabajo. This is always the ending in Spanish for the first person in the singular in the present form, the present tense. 4-3. Yo trabajo o trabajo en un banco. They are just examples. Trabajo en un banco. So banco is very similar to the word that you use in English. So what do you think this verb means? It means to work. So, trabajo en un banco means I work in a bank. Tú trabajas. This is the end. Trabajas en un laboratorio. Laboratorio. This means you work in a laboratory. You work in a laboratory. Laboratorio. Él, ella trabaja en una universidad. So she works at a university. Let's see the plural. As it's regular, the root that contains the meaning is always the same. It keeps on being trabaj in this case. Trabajamos en el zoológico. We work at the zoo. It's not that difficult because except for the first person in the singular, all the other personal pronouns always keep this a in the first case. we see the other ones, and this situation will change. And it will remain being a in the following pronouns. So, vosotros trabajáis en una tienda. Tienda means shop in British English, or store in American English. You work at a store, at a shop. Ustedes trabajan en un almacén. Almacén means grocery. I'm going to write it like this because I have to buy green ink. So this means you work at a grocery. And finally, the third person in the plural, they. Remember that the ending of the Latin American Latin American way for you, trabajan, and the third person is the same. Ellos, ellas trabajan en un museo, let's say. They work at a museum. This is for the conjugation. So remember, as this verb is regular, it's regular. All regular verbs ending in ar will always follow this model. This is the rule for this model. It's not that difficult. The ar is always throughout the conjugation in the present, and for the first person we use this o. On the other hand, we use this o in all three models. Now let's see more examples, but with questions for which we'll have to answer something like this. Let's see. Well, the typical question when someone has just met a person, they start talking, and of course they want to know a bit of information about the other person's daily life. And when it comes to know something more about that person, the verb to work always appears. When we want to know where the other person works, we say this. This is the adverb in the question that we use when asking about a place. Donde. So donde means where. We do not use auxiliary verbs in the present. Neither do we use the pronoun, so the question has two words. Donde, and we've already seen the conjugation. Donde trabajas? I repeat, we rarely say donde trabajas tú, because the information is here. Like you do in English, the question word comes first, and the one that contains the main verb, or in Spanish we only use one verb, goes in second place. ¿Dónde trabajas? En una escuela. At a school. Well, it's similar. The root, I mean, is the same because it comes from Latin. En una escuela. The typical adverb is donde. And something I forgot to tell you when I conjugated the verb is that we always use, luckily, we always use this preposition. You know that in English we have in, at, that for non-native speakers is difficult to know when to use. Sometimes it's difficult to know when to use one or the other. In Spanish, it's always in. There's en, sorry, because it's so similar to in. En una escuela, en what we saw in the other examples. This is the question, but we there are two other ways in which we can ask the same. ¿En qué trabajas? ¿En qué trabajas? En una escuela. ¿En qué means doing what? ¿Dónde means where? ¿Qué means? Sometimes it's translated into, sorry. Sometimes we translate it into what, as in what's your name. Others, which, into which. This is when we have a repertoire of items and we want to know the right one. ¿En qué trabajas? This is the same as asking ¿dónde trabajas? ¿En qué means en qué lugar? In what place? Doing what? So this place, the word place is omitted here, but this is why we say en qué. I'm explaining this because this que alone may sound weird to you, but there is an omission of en qué lugar, en qué actividad, what's the activity. And another way of asking the same is, now with another preposition, ¿a qué? Again, ¿qué? ¿A qué te dedicas? This is another verb that we'll see more deeply in another lesson. The verb is dedicarse, but I wrote the infinitive. ¿A qué te dedicas tú? ¿A qué te dedicas? Dedicarse a algo means to put one's energy doing something and get back as a result salary. ¿A qué te dedicas? But let's see, the answer changes here because en qué is the same as where. So, ¿dónde trabajas? En una escuela. ¿En qué trabajas? ¿En qué lugar? In what place? En una escuela. The answer keeps being the same. If you ask someone ¿a qué te dedicas? You dedicate your time doing what? We have to use the verb trabajo and then the same, en una escuela. En una escuela. I work at a school. So remember, if you ask this one, ¿a qué te dedicas? You have to put the verb and then the place. Here always the preposition en, but in this question we have the preposition a. It means ¿te dedicas a hacer qué? To do what? Usually the preposition a is translated into to. Not always, but most times. It would be you dedicate your time to do what? So a is to. And the same with the other pronouns. Donde trabajo, donde trabaja él, ella, donde trabajamos, en qué trabajáis, a qué se dedican ellos, when we see more clearly the whole conjugation of the verb dedicarse. Now let's see the second model ending in er. The verb comer, it's a very important verb that we use a lot when it comes to referring to or to giving information about our daily routines. Let's see if you catch the meaning. I know you will. Como, remember, as it's regular, the root keeps being the same. Como, and remember, all three models have this ending in the first person in the singular. The changes come later. Como pollo. Pollo is the name of an animal. It's a chicken. And in Spanish, it's not necessary to put the adverb of frequency. Just by saying como pollo, the other person will understand that you do it regularly, that you usually eat chicken. So como means eat. Comer means to eat. Comes, let's write the root first because it's always the same. Like this. Tu, and the final letters are always the same. These letters are always here. The change is in the middle. As the ending of the infinitive is er, we'll have to use an e here. Comes, él, ella come, nosotros comemos, vosotros coméis. Sorry, the accent goes here over the e. Ustedes comen, ellos, ellas comen. And let's put some examples. Comes carne, you usually eat meat. Él, ella come verduras, vegetables. Comemos postres. desserts, coméis fruta. Well, this is very similar. You usually eat some fruit. Comen pescado. Ustedes comen pescado. You usually eat fish. And ellas comen, another example, pasta. Now, in Spanish we say pastas, always in the plural. They eat pasta. Now let's see the questions for which you'll answer something like this. But I guess you already know how the question will be, because in the other example we saw an interrogative pronoun when we ask for information about something. If we want to know what somebody usually eats, well, in the question, so the interrogative pronoun is ¿qué? What? What do you usually eat? ¿Qué comes? The verb is the same because we are asking another person. And in the question, we do have to put the adverb of frequency. Not in the sentence. We don't have to repeat. I usually eat meat. No. Como carne, it's okay. ¿Qué comes? And we can say, the most common word is normalmente. You have the word normally, but in Spanish we use it as a synonym of usualmente, very similar to your usually. ¿Qué comes? Usualmente, normalmente, con frecuencia. Here it says usual and then the suffix mente, like your li. ¿Qué pronoun? Como. Here the o. Como carne. And in the sentence, or the answer in this case, we don't repeat the adverb of frequency. We can, but it's not necessary, because it's already in the question. For the second in the plural, well, the question word is the same, que. The verb is the same, que come. Let's put it this way. Before the conjugation, que comen, que comen, que comen en ustedes, but remember it's not necessary. If I have the other people in front of me, we know that it's you in the plural. ¿Qué comen usualmente? Let's use usualmente so that you see the word better here. Usualmente. ¿Qué comen usualmente? And now the second in the plural will become the first in the plural, because now they are talking and answering. Nosotros, we usually eat blah blah blah. Comemos, we've already conjugated this, so I guess you remember that for the first in the plural it's comemos. Comemos vegetales, verduras. We usually eat vegetables. Let's see a final example. Let's make one with the other ending that we've not seen yet. This is another very, very important verb. We've already seen the conjugation in the present, but we'll see it one more time because it means, if you remember, it means to live. And when one has just met another person, it's very common to ask, where do you live? How do you live? We are going to see how do you live too. I mean, to mean, do you live in good conditions, in poor conditions? Let's see. Though we've seen the verb to vivir, we'll pay more attention to the endings. So all regular verbs ending in ir will follow the same rule. Remember, in Spanish, although we make a distinction between endings, among because they are three, there are no more than those three. So it's once you get to know them better, you'll have no problem. Yo vivo, this is always the same. As in the er ending, tú vives, here we have no change. As in the er ending, él vive, the changes will be found in the plural. So up to now, this is always the same for the three endings. This is the same for the second and third ending. And in the plural, we'll find differences specific for the ir ending. We live, nosotros vivimos, now we put the I. This part is always the same. What changes is the vowel. Vosotros, and this is an important change because in the other cases we have diphthongs. Amáis, well, the verb to love. We saw trabajar, trabajáis, comer, coméis. In this case, we only put the I, put the accent there, and the S. Vosotros vivís. So now no more diphthong, just the I. It's easy to remember because the I is already here. And both for ustedes and for ellos, ellas, it'll be with E as in the second example. So let's say that the third model is sort of a mess of a mixture of the other ones, of a mix, because we have E, I, well, ois in all the cases. But I repeat, once you start practicing them in sentences, as we are doing here, you'll get to know them better and to learn them soon. And let's make questions and the answers. Let's ask questions. Well, we want to know where somebody lives. ¿Dónde vives? And remember, in Spanish we put the preposition in. ¿Dónde vives? En Londres, in London. ¿Dónde vive él o ella? In Rome. I said some minutes ago, this means how, the adverb of manner. Well, in English, you don't say how do you live. In Spanish, we do say cómo vivís. And when we ask that question, we want to note about the conditions in which that person lives, or in this case, those people, because it's in the plural. We want to know further information about their daily way of living, if they, si viven en buenas condiciones, en pobres condiciones, in good conditions, in bad conditions, if they eat regularly, if they have some problems to get their food. This is what we mean when we ask ¿cómo? Because the answer will be either bien or mal, well or badly. So remember, ¿cómo means how, but although you don't use it in English, how do you live? No, we'd rather say, what about your daily life? And ask the different questions. Do you eat well? Do you eat regularly? Do you have any problems to get your food? Do you study? What do you do for a living? But in Spanish, it's very, very common to ask, ¿cómo vivís? And the answer will be, in most cases, bien or mal. By bien, we mean all that is implied. I eat regularly, I have a job, I do things that I like. And by mal, well, maybe you'll be asked to give more information. Currently, I don't have a job. I have problems in getting my daily food. I have to go to eat to my parents, for example, and ask them for some money. This is what we mean with this question. So this is all for today, because we've seen the three possibilities in Spanish. And I repeat, as these are all regular verbs, any regular verb that we want to conjugate will follow this rule in the present. If you look up a verb in the dictionary, the dictionary will say on the right of the word, before giving the meaning, will say this, as in English, R to indicate regular, or this. This is the abbreviation of irregular in Spanish, in English too. If the word says this, has this R, you know that you follow this model and you'll have no problem. Now, if the verb is irregular, well, you'll have to search for further information. Well, nowadays you search on the net, and you'll come to the verb. So see you in the next video, and remember, if you like this video, please thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. See you.